Back at it today with another video, as in today's video I'm going to be predicting every team's best player in 2023. As usual, no intro here, let's get right into the video. Getting things started off with the Arizona Diamondbacks, I have Zach Gallen. Gallen last year was a legitimate Cy Young candidate, as in the 184 innings pitched he posted a 2.54 ERA with 192 strikeouts. I was back and forth on this one between Gallen and Corbin Carroll. I was close to picking Carroll, but I went with Gallen because he's had major league experience in the past, and I think he's going to put up really good numbers again this year. Moving on to the Atlanta Braves, I have Ronald Acuna. Acuna last year, by his standards, had a down season as he hit .266 with 15 home runs and 29 stolen bases. But this year, with Acuna back to full health with a full season ahead of him, I think he's going to have a huge season, and I get there's lots of talented players on the Braves, but I think Acuna is going to stand out as the best Brave. Moving on to the Baltimore Orioles, I have Adley Rutschman. This one was a toss-up. You have a couple players in Cedric Mullins, Anthony Santander, and Gunnar Henderson, but I ultimately went with Rutschman because I think he's going to take another huge leap forward. He nearly won the AL Rookie of the Year award last year, and this year I think he's going to put up some really good offensive numbers, all while providing you with Gold Glove defense behind the plate. Moving on to the Red Sox, I have Rafael Devers. Devers is one of the best offensive third basemen in the game today, as last year he hit .295 with 27 home runs. I get this is a boring pick. I wanted to go with Masataka Yoshida, the rookie from Japan, but I just couldn't take him over Devers, who is all around one of the best offensive players in the game. Moving on to the White Sox, I have Luis Robert. This is a tough one. Obviously, you could go with a lot of different names here. I did almost go with Andrew Vaughn, but I think Robert is going to stay healthy this year and put up some really good numbers. Last year in limited time, he hit .284 with 12 home runs and 11 stolen bases, and if he does stay on the field, I think he is talented enough to put up 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. Moving on to the Chicago Cubs, I have Nico Hoerner. Now, the obvious pick with the Cubs would normally be Dansby Swanson, and I'm not saying he's going to have a bad season. I just think Hoerner is going to have a really good season. Last year, he broke out and hit .281 with 10 home runs and 20 stolen bases, and he's really good defensively as well, so this year I think he's going to continue to take some strides forward and be the best Cub. Moving on to the Cincinnati Reds, I have Hunter Green. This is a really tough one. Obviously, the Reds don't have a ton of talent here, but I do think Green is going to have a big season. He has some really nasty stuff. He has a triple digits fastball, and I think he's one of the few pitchers in the game this year that could potentially have 250 strikeouts if he does stay healthy. Getting on to the Cleveland Guardians, I have Jose Ramirez. Another boring pick here, but you just can't deny the fact that Ramirez is one of the best players in the game. Last year, he had another MVP caliber season in which he hit .278 with 29 home runs and 20 stolen bases, and I think it's safe to say he's going to put up similar numbers this year. Getting on to the Colorado Rockies, I have Chris Bryant. This may be a hot take, not necessarily because Bryant isn't talented, he just never stays on the field. But so far this spring, he's been tearing it up, and if he does stay healthy, I think he will in fact be the best Rocky in 2023. Getting on to the Tigers, I have Riley Green. Another not so very talented roster here, but I think Green is going to build off a pretty decent rookie season. Last year, he hit .250 with 5 home runs, and being a former top prospect, I think he has a lot more in the tank, and this year I think he is going to take a big stride into his age 22 season. Getting on to the Houston Astros, I have Yordan Alvarez. Now, the Astros are one of the most talented teams in the game. There were lots of options here, but I do think Alvarez is going to put up MVP caliber numbers, as last year he hit .306 with 37 bombs. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I think Alvarez is one of the few players in the game today who has 50 home run potential. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but I definitely think he could come close this year. Getting on to the Kansas City Royals, I have Bobby Witt Jr. Witt last year had a really good offensive rookie season as he hit .254 with 20 home runs and 30 stolen bases. I was close to picking a few players like MJ Melendez and Vinny Pasquantino, who are very talented in their own respect, but I think Witt is on another level. He has 40-40 potential as a 22-year-old. Getting on to the Angels, I have Shohei Ohtani. Even with Mike Trout on this roster, this was a pretty obvious pick. Last year, Ohtani posted a 2.33 ERA on the mound, and at the plate, he hit .271 with 34 home runs, so he's all around one of the most talented players we've ever seen in the game of baseball, and this year, who's to say he's not going to do the same? Moving on to the Dodgers, I have Freddie Freeman. This may be a little bit of a hot take because obviously he's teammates with Mookie Betts, who is a perennial MVP candidate, but I think Freeman is going to have another huge season. Last year, he hit .325 with 21 home runs and 13 stolen bases, and with the track record he's built up to this point in his career, it's safe to say he's going to build off of that. Getting on to the Miami Marlins, I have Sandy Alcantara. This was a pretty easy pick, as the reigning National League Cy Young Award winner last year posted a 2.29 ERA in 229 innings pitched. He is one of the few pitchers to make this list today because he has such a huge impact on Miami. Every time he hits the mound, it's almost an automatic win if he gets run support. Getting onto the Brewers, I have another pitcher in Corbin Burnes. Burnes, similar to Alcantara, is one of the best pitchers in the game, as last year in 202 innings he had a 2.94 ERA with 243 strikeouts. Now this is not to say the Brewers don't have any talent outside of Burnes, it's just the fact that he is one of the best pitchers in the game, and I think he's going to put up Cy Young numbers again this year. Moving on to the Twins, I have Jorge Polanco. This may be a surprise to some because Polanco does play with players like Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton, but I think Polanco is going to bounce back and have a really good season. Last year he only hit 233 with 16 home runs, but like I said, I'm all in on Polanco this year, and I think he's going to have a really good year. Getting onto the New York Mets, I have Francisco Lindor. Lindor last year looked like he was back to the Lindor of old, as he hit 270 with 26 home runs and 16 stolen bases. He does have some stiff competition here and teammates like Pete Alonso, Justin Verlander, and Max Scherzer, but I just think Lindor is going to stand out above the rest and be the best Met in 2023. Getting on to the Yankees, I have Aaron Judge. This is probably one of the most predictable ones on the list today, as Judge last year hit 311 with 62 home runs and 16 stolen bases. Even if he does have a quote-unquote off year and only hits 40 home runs, he's still going to have a huge impact on this Yankee team offensively and defensively. Getting onto the Oakland A's, I have Shea Langeliers. With Oakland being so bad, this was a tough pick, but I do think Langeliers has 25 to 30 home run potential. After all, he is a former top prospect in the system, so I think this year may be the year he puts it all together. Getting onto the Philadelphia Phillies, I have Trey Turner. Turner was one of the biggest pickups of this offseason, as last year with the Dodgers he hit 298 with 21 home runs and 27 stolen bases. He's all around one of the most talented players in baseball today, but if Bryce Harper was fully healthy this season, I would have went with him, but obviously with him being out for about half the season, I think Turner will step up and be the best Philly. Getting onto the Pirates, I have O'Neal Cruz. Cruz put together a pretty good rookie season last year, as he hit 233 with 17 home runs and 10 stolen bases. This year, I think he is going to take another leap forward, and I think he has potential to hit 25 home runs and steal 25 bases. Getting onto the Padres, I have Manny Machado. Now with the Padres, there is obviously lots of choices, but I think Machado is going to stand out among the rest. I think he has 40 home run potential this season, and I think he's going to get MVP consideration across the league. Moving on to the Giants, I have Logan Webb. Webb is a very talented pitcher, as last year he posted a 2.9 ERA with 163 strikeouts. This year, I think he's going to put up similar numbers. The Giants aren't necessarily the most talented team in the world, so I think Webb is going to stand out and be the best Giant. Getting onto the Mariners, I have Julio Rodriguez. The Mariners are a very talented team, but this was an easy pick. Rodriguez last year won the Rookie of the Year award, as he hit 282 with 28 home runs and 25 stolen bases. He is one of the best young stars in the game today. He may eventually one day become the face of baseball. He is so talented and very likable, so all in all, I think he's going to have a huge year. Getting onto the Cardinals, I have Nolan Arenado. With the reigning National League MVP being Arenado's teammate, this was a pretty tough choice. Paul Goldschmidt is obviously a very good pick, but I think Arenado may be the MVP this year. He's been consistently great throughout his career. He is a future Hall of Famer, and I think he's going to elevate his numbers this season and potentially win the National League MVP. Moving on to the Rays, I have Wander Franco. This was a tough one, but I do think Franco is going to have a big year this season. I do think it is a make or break season for him, and I think he's going to come through. Being a former top prospect, he has loads of talent. He just hasn't put it all together and stayed healthy up to this point, but this year I think he's going to stay healthy and put up some really good numbers for Tampa Bay. Getting onto the Rangers, I have Corey Seager. Now at this point, when thinking about the Rangers, you most likely think of Marcus Semien and Jacob deGrom, but I think Seager is going to be this year's best Ranger. Last year, in his first season in Texas, he hit 243 with 33 home runs, but with no more shift this year, I think it's safe to say Seager's numbers are going to improve. Moving on to the Blue Jays, I have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Guerrero last year, for his standards at least, had a down season as he hit 274 with 32 home runs. I think Vlad may revert back to his 2021 form where he nearly hit 50 home runs and almost won the American League MVP award. And finally, getting onto the Washington Nationals, I have CJ Abrams. Washington, being one of the least talented teams in the league, doesn't have a lot of players to choose from here, but I think Abrams is going to have a good year. Being a centerpiece in the Juan Soto deal, Washington has high hopes for Abrams, and I think he's going to be a big threat on the base paths this year, and I think he's going to be a pretty good player. Alright, so there you have my predictions for every team's best player in 2023. Let me know what you guys think down below, anything you agree with or disagree with. As always, I want to thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.